My name is Yasmin Sawa, and I am a teacher and a school leader. We live in a world of rapid technological innovation. The latest technologies have revolutionized the world of work, reformed old and created new industries, reshaped the ways we receive and process information. There is, however, one area of life that until recently has remained largely untouched by the emergence of new technologies. That area is education. Despite the regular updates and reforms, education system at its core has not been fundamentally reimagined since the era of Industrial Revolution, and it is certainly not for the lack of trying. Throughout the 20th century, optimistic statements were made for the educational potential of the new technologies, from motion pictures and radio in the 1920s to television in the 1950s to computers in the 1970s, but on each occasion, the technology has failed to truly revolutionize education. This is not to say that schools have not been changing at all. It is, however, important to understand what kind of change it was. Education is serving and is accountable to multiple stakeholders, so the consequences of getting it wrong are way too high. For this reason, despite some excellent individual examples, deeper levels of the system tend to be more resistant to any kind of scalable change. Although without challenging the underlying theories, principles, and practices the system was built upon, we will not be able to achieve a fundamental change and truly revolutionize education. Surface level changes are less difficult to implement and as a result happen more often. For example, although the classrooms of today may not look much different from those of the 20th century, and students still have to learn a set of pre-selected topics and skills to prepare for standardized examinations to be able to progress onto the next stage of their education, the influence of technology on education cannot be ignored. From automation of simple tasks to analytics and decision-making tools to AI, technology, if used correctly, can be truly transformational. Correct usage of technology can enhance and enrich the students' learning experiences, ultimately leading to better understanding, retention, and higher levels of overall achievement and learning satisfaction. One great example is adaptive learning that refers to software that uses AI to change the difficulty level of content being taught automatically and in real time, based on previous answers collected and analyzed by inbuilt diagnostic tools. One benefit is that adaptive learning ensures that students are not moving on to more complex lessons before mastering the simpler ones. This is especially helpful in subject areas like mathematics and science, where each concept being taught depends on the learner's knowledge of the previous material. In a traditional classroom, even if the teacher is able to identify the area where each individual student's problems lie, they may not be able to provide the required level of differentiation to help them to catch up. Adaptive learning technology allows students to work at their own pace, while gamification features keep them engaged, motivated, and provide sense of achievement. Another way to utilize technology is in creating digital learning materials. Digital materials are not to be confused with converting a traditional textbook into electronic format. In fact, simply digitalizing books will not necessarily aid learning, and multiple studies have been conducted comparing reading on screen and on paper to evaluate the effectiveness of both. There appear to be differences in the way we process information received through digital and print medium. Studies suggest that on-screen reading leads to lower levels of comprehension of abstract concepts, higher probability of distraction, and reduces the repertoire of learning strategies that students apply to engage with the material. In addition, on-screen learning is found to lead to overconfidence, despite not improving the actual test performance. Perhaps for this reason, electronic books, despite their undisputable convenience, have not been widely implemented in schools. Effective digital learning requires more than just digitalizing traditional books. Specially designed learning materials are multimodal and include text, images, animations, videos, and now even virtual reality and augmented reality. Designing these materials must follow evidence-based principles that are based on cognitive theories as well as research findings of how students learn. Effective practice and theoretical rationale for using particular technological tools and solutions should come before the technology. Technology that supports effective learning and effective teaching practices is a good way to make such practices more accessible and scalable. Going technology heavy at the expense of good learning practices is at best not helpful, and according to some studies can even hinder learning. During the COVID-19 pandemic and recent school closures, it became apparent that technology in education was no longer a matter of choice. However, another interesting discovery has emerged. It turns out that even the brightest and most enthusiastic students have reported reduced motivation when studying online. Teachers have found it a lot harder to keep the whole class engaged, and it is particularly the case with younger students. We are once again starting to appreciate how much of a social process learning really is. Although some form of blended learning is likely here to stay, it is now clear that face-to-face learning is also not going away anytime soon. Schools as physical spaces are a lot more than just places where knowledge is transmitted from teachers to students. Schools provide a structured environment where students get inspired and they discover their strengths, they learn to interact and collaborate, they show initiative and adapt to rules. In the post-pandemic world, technology won't replace physical schools, but schools that use technology effectively will replace those that don't. Education system is finally experiencing a long predicted shift. If you're a teacher or a parent or student, we would love to hear your thoughts and learn about your experiences.